Hello and welcome to a new episode of BIMvoice. Today I talk with Marko Koljancic, who is a digital technology manager at DiRoots. I previously talked with the CEO of this company in another episode, and now we are going to dive a little bit deeper in what they do and see some of their plugins. Hi Marko, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, Petru. And it's good to be here.
It's nice to have you here. Please start by saying a few words about yourself, and after that you can share your screen and go on.
So, what I can say about myself, I'm a digital technology manager at DiRoots. In a nutshell, to summarize all my roles in team, I lead the development team at DiRoots. All three teams. We have three teams. That is, well-famous plugins team that is developing, Shiplink, ProSheets, and other plugins. Custom development team and the R&D team. So these three teams. I'm architect by profession. Maybe it's a fun fact, but all my career I'm in IT industry, like for the last almost 10 years. So yeah, I deviated a bit from my studies.
That sounds a lot like I met lately many people with this kind of background, and that is no shame in that because I really think there are many more opportunities in the IT industry. But it's very nice that you have you found an overlap between the IT and still AAC.
Yeah, it's a very interesting because I always had a passion for software development, even by studying architecture, always playing around, even the early versions of Grasshopper as an example. And at that time, I learned also Python. So, applying this stuff and seeing the visual feedback from the tools was some kind of mind-blowing thing for me. And now in DiRoots, I kind of have ability to merge best from both worlds, if I may say like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Please go on with your presentation. You can start sharing your screen.
Okay, so what I prepared is I will open Revit 2021 and share the screen in a second.
For those who have not watched the previous episode, just say a few words about what DiRoots is doing, and before we dive into the product.
Definitely, we sometimes get used to on this. Everybody knows us for our plugins, mindset. So, yeah, I will introduce. As I said, we have three teams, and what we are doing in a nutshell is software development in IT industry. Basically, if I can summarize, it's for design automation in general, and digital transformation. So, what we are known for is our plugins. 8 free plugins, 9 in development. At this stage, we kind of announced that 1 month ago. So yeah, that's the first role. Second is custom development. We help businesses privately to create the tools and automate their workflows, help them achieve their goals faster and more precise. And the R&D team is something that we strongly believe that without R&D team, you're stuck in a same loop all over again. So this is a couple of things about us. Mainly, we are self-funded startup business. We don't have investors at this stage, and honestly, we are not looking, as Jette likes to say, investors. We are just looking to create best tools as much as we can and provide for free to industry. So what I will demonstrate briefly, let me just open, I will do live demo of some tools. Keep in mind that a couple of tools here you will see maybe as an audience, you will see first time because these are tools that will be released in 2 to 3 weeks. So for example, what I will show what we are doing on our site is, as an example, we have 8 plugins, as I said. Shiplink is well-known plugin for data management. I can tell you, for example, Shigen, it deals with the drawing production process from start to finish, like even deal with revisions, views, and so on. TableGen is importing Excel data, so non-BIM graphical data into Revit itself, and drawing in Revit from the Excel sheet. One filter is kind of one of my personal favorites, if I may add, because we invested a lot of time and development in this plugin. It's very big plugin in terms of software development. I know it doesn't look like that maybe in small UI, but it deals with finding anything in your Revit models by any possible criteria that you can imagine.
Because otherwise it's not very easy to navigate and look for things in Revit.
Exactly, and that's one of the problems that we are solving. Some of these features you already have in Revit built in. As an example, I can open one filter, and this is a compiled version. I'm just kind of warning because it's in development, so maybe some bugs will appear, but for now, everything is stable, let's say like that. So what I can tell you about the one filter, as I said, if I need to summarize, it's a tool for finding the elements in the model. How you can find the elements in the model, you can find in any possible different way. For example, filter is a simple one, and look how we organize the UIs. We follow the same structure as much as we can. So what we strongly believe, tool that doesn't need a manual to understand how it works is the best tool and best UI and user experience. And we tend to do things in similar ways. If you use one plugin, you kind of get the idea where others are, how the others are working. For one filter, I will do just briefly explanation. Let's example, I want to find floors. It's super easy. I want to find floors, but I can take a look into peak, into parameters and values by business or even combined in both levels, which is very interesting. For example, I will pick instance, then I will pick some parameter. For example, we can pick mark parameter, and then we have operators. Equal, does not equal, contains is a very interesting one. And yeah, what you can do now, I pick the parameter that doesn't have any value, maybe comments, or even, let me see, just the comments, one comments here, okay. Yep, we don't have comments. I'm picking just the wrong, maybe level is a very interesting one in a sample model. So we have this autocomplete. And easy like that, you just click filter and you find them. And what you can do, you can find all floors in the level one. Of course, for much more precise finding of elements, we have something called rules and sets. In a nutshell, it's a if you can imagine that you can apply multiple filters in the same time and change them, that's the overall idea. For example, I can find the walls and I can add as many as I want rules here. So I can pinpoint precise find elements in my model. And even I can invert my rules to find something that is not considered to be in this filter. If it makes sense, you can find something and you can find the rest of the things. This is very interesting. And what's the reason why we developed this? Everybody knows that, for example, if you go to manage, you have rule-based filters in Revit, but they tend to be clunky in a way how you input the data. So we thought, come on, let's recreate that functionality in our plugin, and so far so good. It works, it's very precise. What I will demonstrate also is maybe contain stuff, which is one of the very, I would say some users get confused with the purpose of this one. But what I can tell you as an example, idea is you have a volume of space, okay? It's in area, rooms, masses, space zones, whatever you actually want. And then you pick categories. In this model, I have a lot of rooms, okay? And I want to find all of these category elements in these rooms. And I can even use link files. And what I can do, I can run one very, very, I would say fast algorithm, because we refine performances of this one for, I would say, straight 1.5 months, just work on performances in terms of coding. And what you can do now, what you can see now, that they are mapping between elements and the volume that they are contained inside. For mechanical engineers, this is kind of very important. For architects also, to find where is my furniture, in which room, so I can create a mapping. And what I can do now, for example, I know that model groups, I think they don't have parameters, so it's a known limitation from Revit API. What we can do, we can build our value. And what it does, we describe this mapping in a parameter in Revit. That's very interesting one. For now, we can use room number and room name. And if I click set parameter value, we can store in one common instance text parameter, give it a second to spin. It's inserted, okay. In some elements, cannot add because they are grouped. And what is the end result? If I select, for example, this door, it will tell me that in a comments, you see here, this door is in the kitchen and the dining. So it's occupying this, it's contained in these spaces. Now, when it comes to visualizing things, okay, I know where are my elements, but what I can do, I can go to Visualize tab. And Visualize tab is very interesting because I can do something like this, accept the model groups. Let's find the model groups quickly. Okay. And comments. And what you will see here, that we find and differentiate between parameter values, we assign the unique color for all of these parameters. And what you can do, easy like that, you can colorize your elements based on some parameter values. Why is this feature so important? I personally insisted on this one because kind of giving the color to parameter values in Revit models is, it gives you insight in the model, very easy. Like, for example, what use cases our users are using? If they are renumbering elements in the model, they tend to like to use the gradient colors, okay? And what they do, they apply the gradient colors, for example, from red to green, and they can visualize. This is not a good example because these are not sequentially numbered elements, but imagine that you do this on large scale. You can easily see how your elements are sequenced. They are going from one color to another. If you see the spike in the color, you notice immediately there is some issue in numbering. For example, that's one very interesting thing. Of course, bunch of options, bunch of things to configure on the one filter, and a couple of things. For example, what is one of the interesting things that you cannot do natively with Revit? Revit native functionality is, I will just undo a couple of steps, is this one. Let's go to 3D view, and I will open one filter. You notice that I'm using shortcuts. I can even give a recommendation for our users. D for DiRoots, and then initials of the plugin. For example, DOF is for one filter, DSL for Shiplink, and so on. So it's easy to remember, right? And what you cannot do with native Revit functionality is if you go to rules and sets, okay, you can see rule-based filters. And rule-based filters are something that I'm always forgetting where they are because I'm using from here almost exclusively, but these ones, right? Okay, and what you can do now, if you click interior filter, you can actually select elements in your model. What else you can do? You can click visualize and send these elements over the visualize tab, and you can visualize them, for example, by category or something like that. So yeah, you can communicate inside the plugin between the tabs, and it's very useful one. Why this plugin also very heavily used in the industry is model checking, is because in a lot of these tabs you have actually profiles feature in which you can save the profiles and you can easily inspect this data okay on the model. And that's in a nutshell one filter. One that I would kind of showcase now, that is now in a second beta testing phase, is Shiplink.
Sorry for jumping in. Can you please go back to one filter? Do you have any filters that are geared towards IFC elements?
Not built-in features, not built-in rules, let's say like that, but easily if you have elements here, even if you link the IFC file, we are working on one feature of the one filter that will be released with our next update, and that is how to say find elements in a linked models. So if you link the IFC, if you link anything else, we'll be able to dig deeper, one step beyond the current model. And that's one of the big features actually that we are actively working on.
Okay, that's good. It's cool to make things that integrates well with openBIM. Yeah, very important.
Unfortunately, I don't have here on my side installed ProSheets, but in a ProSheets, while we mentioned the IFC, we dig a lot deeper than in other plugins into IFC support because to support some requests from our clients, users, let's say like that, it's a better word, you know that we are able to export the IFC models from the ProSheets. if you see the amount of options that we added there, it's kind of mind-blowing. Almost all features that Revit can do with IFC are supported in a project. So yeah, we are looking in IFC. What we also did when you mentioned the IFC, we did one, let's say R&D project with Open Design Alliance SDKs. Maybe you heard for them. It's called ODA SDKs. There is one IFC SDK and BIMRV SDK. In a nutshell, the project was not public, not published, but we internally developed, and yeah, I think we published one video on LinkedIn that showcases that you can open Revit model and IFC files without having even installed Revit on your machine, like standalone application. We worked on that for a couple of months just to make a proof of concept for one future product that we are kind of looking at. Long answer. I provided very long answer.
No, it's fine. No problem.
Yeah. So what I wanted to showcase also, maybe it's interesting to show Shiplink because it is completely different from what is actually out there now, publicly available. As I mentioned, this is Shiplink is now closing into a final second beta testing phase. Guys and girls from the industry, well-known companies, they are doing internal testing and providing us feedback. Even yesterday, we received one. If I, compliment our team, is about performances of the Shiplink. One very large IC company, they tested on very heavy models, and they were surprised with performances. Now, this is very small model, so you will not see the performances, but on a large scale, kind of make difference. So what we did with the Shiplink, for everybody that is familiarized with the Shiplink, main idea is to kind of strip down data from the model, export to spreadsheet files. Why I say it's to spreadsheet files? Because it can be Google Sheets or it can be Excel files, normal Excel files. You update the data in Excel, import to update the model. And in a nutshell, workflow is super basic, super simple. Now, there is a much more things we can do in between point A and point B, okay? And we break down the UI in, as you see, regarding the previous version, we break down into tabs. So everything is cleanly, neatly organized. So everything is kind of similar in all of these tabs. We just target the different elements. One of the big features that we have at this stage is introduction of panel link. I will just demonstrate briefly in another model because this is the only thing that we developed specific for one discipline in IT industry. And that reminds me to tell you one thing that is kind of our motto or a goal while developing these 8 plugins is to never cover anything specific to any discipline. Idea is to create a broad general tools as a small platform on which you can, no matter which discipline you belong, you can do your daily tasks and automate and speed up and so on, right? Panel link is the only exception to that. And we are supporting panel schedules which are very specific to electrical discipline. I will demonstrate later and just wanted to point out that. So what we can do with Shiplink, yeah, let me just do one basic thing. Like, I don't know, we can select the floors. You see the color coding. Color coding is very important for us. As a visual speakers, we kind of see the green color, it means instance, yellow means type, read-only parameters are the red ones. So let's pick some parameters like, for example, we are on floors, levels, and we want a mark parameter. What we can do, there is a couple of things. Now we can branch it to paths. 3 paths means export to Google, export to Excel, or without even exporting, do editing directly in the Shiplink. Let's explain just the export to Excel briefly. I can export the floors. We will overwrite some worksheets, I think they're called. Okay, I told you that we are on beta version, so yeah. Let's just give different name 0.1, let's say like that, and it will open. I know for this bug because we are tracking it for quite some time, so yeah. Easy like that. I have overview of my data. If I get lost, I can always take a look into instructions page. Yellow tells me it's a type. red is me read only, and gray is important because tells me that maybe on one of these rows, one of these elements, this parameter doesn't exist. So if you cross-check and see somewhere gray color, it means that your parameter doesn't exist. You can use paramanager to create that parameter and then Shiplink to populate the data. What I will do, I will do some very naive, very simple thing like mark parameter. I will just sequence a couple of numbers, save, import, and then we have a couple of options. I will just import straight from the, we'll do preview import. Okay, we can do floors 0, 1. And what you will see, it's a nice feature of the Shiplink that kind of our users really like to use is to see what are the changes in the model. Because we can compare what is in the Excel, what is actually in the model.
Like a revision control of a file.
Exactly. And we can now update the model. It's a fraction of the second. That's okay. If we go there, what we can do now to validate it, did we correctly apply the values? Yes, I can just preview edit and I can see my values here. So it means that if I select some floor, I can see that I applied the mark value. And that's basic workflow. What you can do, copy spreadsheets, for example, are a good example what you can do with the Shiplink. I will not demonstrate now because I need to build up a lot of things to prepare, but yeah. And this is for model categories. Annotate categories, just the same thing, but more detail items, detail things specific to the views. Elements are elements that are actually used in the model. Schedules are very important. This is file with just 2 schedules. And the spatial is actually one of the tabs. Give me 1 second. Never do live demo on beta version. That's one of the golden rules.
Which you just broke, huh?
Yeah. Idea is why I broke, because I wanted to showcase the latest one.
Yeah, it's no problem. Don't worry, no problem.
That is the deal. Of course, these small issues will be avoided. And what I want to demonstrate briefly is maybe panel link, because electrical discipline guys and girls will be kind of interested in this one. We did a lot of development. This is feature that is almost 6 months old that we didn't actually release. So to open the panel schedules, let me open this model. I think this one contains panel schedules. And while it's opening, I will explain one super neat feature that everybody's using, but for the new users that will probably maybe download our plugins and give them a try, is this thing. If you open the Shiplink or any of our plugins, you will see the feedback here button. And through this button, we are receiving daily a lot of comments. Please improve this, do this. Can you support, I don't know, specific scenarios and so on. So as much feedback as we get from our community to develop these free plugins, we are grateful always, and we always look into this. As an example, the Spatial tab is a recommendation from one Australian company that kind of use a lot Shiplink, and they thought that it would be nice to have one specific set of functionalities for rooms and spaces to create from the spreadsheet files or Excel files rooms and spaces in the model and import them to create. So yeah, what we can do, panel link, we can see the panel schedules. Let's see a couple of schedules. They look like this, and electrical discipline guys know this. What we do 2 things. Export as is, it means we will literally export the schedule as it looks like here, but without ability to import back and update the model. It's just purely for exporting as is. And the one in we call it Shiplink format. So what we can do, you see all the parameters, and we can export, keep formatting. Keep formatting means that we will export without any changes to the sheet. Yeah. So what will happen? Wait a second to assemble the view, and this is how it looks like. So yeah, you can see approximately almost exact match of these. And these data, unfortunately, you cannot fill in because it will be enormously complicated because of the nature of the panel schedules. They grow a lot. They can users can apply different templates. It's enormously difficult to create an exact mapping of the features, and it doesn't make sense because you can easily edit them here. But what we can do is export without key formatting, and let's create this schedule 01, 02, sorry. Yeah, we export like this. What is the benefit of doing this? I'm not the electrical engineer, but we have a developer that is actually software developer and the electrical engineer in the same time. So he kind of lead development of this feature and explain us what are the benefits of exporting in a Shiplink format. Why I'm saying that, from the Shiplink, you can export the panels and all of the other surrounding elements, but the benefit of exporting from panel link is that you export only elements that are within this schedule, only specifically these elements. So you narrow down your search in finding the elements, parameters, values, and so on. And so far, we received a good feedback from beta test group, and of course, triple checking before release and usual one. So, Petru, what do you think about the Shiplink?
It's interesting. Yes, definitely has its use, and but I did not use it. I don't use Revit, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I cannot give you too much feedback on this.
Well, which application for modeling are you using, if I may ask?
In the job I'm working right now, I use actually AutoCAD, Civil 3D, and Navisworks. These are the main softwares I'm using. Although I have some experience with Revit, but it's been a few years since I worked with it, and I never worked in projects. I've been into a long course of a few months, and I use it quite intensively, but it's been more than 5 years ago. And I've used it on the side of the job, just trying to learn and keep myself updated. But it's been, I think last year I used it last time, and but I did not use it at professional level, like I said. So it's difficult for me to give any feedback regarding this. I'll be honest. I've worked with the AutoCAD more than 10 years now, and Navisworks like 5, and yeah, I worked with Tekla a little bit.
So that's your stack of technologies. Good, nice. Tekla, personally, I didn't use as an architect. I'm so far away from Tekla. You get my point. But yeah, I'm mainly on the Revit and from time to time on ArchiCAD as BIM authoring tools or BIM modeling tools. Yeah. So in a nutshell, let me just show you even a couple of things that are kind of maybe not that well known as small features of our plugins, and then I will demonstrate you Paramanager, and then we can maybe discuss furthermore. So on any of our plugins, we have a couple of things that are very interesting. Collapse. I know it sounds simple, but believe it or not, like I personally think that 80% of our users doesn't know about this feature. You just double click because sometimes it's very difficult. You have a lot of screens, you have a lot of plugins open in the same time. It's super interesting to just collapse and stay.
How do you do that with double click?
Double click. It's plain and simple. I can tell you my inspiration came for this feature. Sorry for saying my name because I actually requested this feature, but team actually figured out the way to develop this thing, and it came from in Grasshopper. From early days in Grasshopper, you can double click on the top of the bar and you can collapse in this way. And I always admired that feature. I was like, I didn't even know how to find the technical name. When you say develop me this, and one guy, I forgot the name on LinkedIn, tell me exact technical name for this feature. So in a nutshell, we call it double click to collapse.
That's amazing. It's very nice indeed because it cleans your screen so much. Because we always have many windows, right, open. So it's very useful. Yeah, definitely. And this applies to all your plugins, right?
All of our, whichever you touch. Of course, Shiplink that is out now, I think it also supports but have a different UI styling. So what we are working on actually, and it's a very big, difficult task, is unify the whole styling of the plugin, theming, let's say like that. because we have a couple of ideas in the near future to start supporting different language versions. For example, French, Portuguese, Spanish, list goes on. We will see how many languages we can actually support. Of course, we'll need the feedback from community to help us because, as an example, we don't have a French speaker in the company, but we have Spanish and Portuguese speakers. And the other thing is one of the not that so important features is we are actually waiting for Envy to support our team, like AutoCAD. So we want to be ahead of the curve and to provide the option to build your team for the plugins, UI team. That's one of the long-standing features that we kind of started working on as we will soon release. So you can create a dark version of, Shiplink as an example. Okay, and what you can always notice with our plugins, this thing that I will show you, it makes things a bit difficult from the software development standpoint, but we have a great team behind us, so we are not afraid of this challenge. For example, keeping everything modeless. Modeless means that you can interact in the same time. And I cannot tell you how many times we stuck to actually develop it, because there is some very tricky Revit API behaviors that need to be overcome, workarounds and stuff like that. So far, so good. And so good that by default, everything that we actually develop, even in custom development, is always modeless. So you don't need to close the plugin, then model, then do the open plugin and so on, right?
That sounds like a need utility, yeah. Like a need.
And okay, I will just briefly go through Paramanager. Paramanager in our user community, which is kind of large at this stage, is gaining a lot of attraction, a lot of popularity, and actually number of downloads are, if I can see in jargon, it's out of this world for Paramanager.
This must have something to do with IFC, definitely. Maybe it helps people set IFC parameters.
Yes.
So they can export better IFC files, or
exactly. So the main purpose of the plugin is to manage parameters, and as we know, data plus parameters and values, data plus graphical data, it means smart model, right? So we need to manage parameters. Sometimes we need to clean models, sometimes we need to inject parameters, modify them, and so on. So Paramanager is designed to try to cover everything that is missing in Revit, like all of these workflows that kind of we personally think as a team that kind of should be there. But so on a basic level, what I can do, add parameter, one parameter, plain and simple like that. Okay, this is feature that is recently requested by a couple of users, big supporters of us in terms of providing us feedback to allow this to support all attributes of the parameters that Revit can consume. Right? So because of UI, we needed to kind of summarize them in a drop-down list and to provide them. But now you can add the tooltips. You can decide is parameter visible or not. Is it read-only or is it editable? And list goes on. Right? So on a basic level, let me just add, this is my tooltip. Sorry for spelling mistakes, probably. And if I go to categories, I can now assign category to these parameters. Okay, what I can do, I can choose which category you want easily. I can save combinations of categories if I'm constantly working on the similar tasks. It's not important at this stage. For existing users, what I would point out, the vertical line character represents the subcategories. Paramanager now supports every possible category and subcategory in the Revit. And let's not do everything. Like, why not? And it's a basic workflow. I just created one shape parameter, easy like that. But what I can do much more things. I can export the old parameters in Excel, update them there, even create new parameters. I can import from shape parameter files, and so on. I can delete duplicate parameters and so on to clean my models. Recently, we received one model for our client that has almost 1,000 parameters per model category, which is, even small models are slow to read. And do stuff. What we propose, just delete unnecessary parameters. It's a couple of seconds job. Now, if we divert deeper into this, let me just open better sample model to showcase a couple of things. Yeah, let's open this one, sample files, and let's go to maybe this well-famous sample model that Revit ships with. Okay. Do I want to see changes? Of course, no. We didn't do anything super interesting. So what we can do, plain and simple, we can go to transfer tab and imagine that you have a family here. And from that family, you want to deploy parameters to many other families. If you go one by one, all of these families, edit family, insert parameters, load back in model, it will take like ages to do that. With the Paramanager, it's very simple, and this is a very useful tool in which we can select family. Okay, we have these parameters. I can even modify them, modify the name, and I can put a prefix of MK, let's say my initials for some reason. Let's say we are interested in that. And we can sort by furniture. Or maybe even, sorry, let's find the windows. Okay, let's find the windows. And insert from this family parameters in all windows in the model. We see success messages, it means everything is okay. And if I now open the, for example, one filter, why not to mix things up with? We can find all windows in the model. So very quick, we can isolate them and we can easily inspect. Did we apply these parameters? Probably they are on type level. Yes, they are on type level because these ones are type level. And you see MK, right? So it's easy like that. And no matter how many families you have, you can deploy parameters over. Similar thing is from families perspective. You select families in which you want to insert parameters. Notice that I'm in model environment. Let's just do brief demo. Let's insert 3 parameters into chairs. Everything okay. So for the new users and maybe for existing users, if they miss our color coding, I will explain briefly just because I'm constantly emphasizing how important is color coding for us. And let's do something like this. Green color means that something is in the model Paramanager or any our plugin is just reading the values. Nothing is changed, like everything is fine. Okay. Yellow color means that something is in the model but be modified in plugin, like name of the family, some parameters of the family, something. Yellow means that if you click apply, then it will be propagated to the model. And red means it doesn't exist in the model. It's purely virtual in our plugin. If you click apply, it will be in the model. And this is the simple color coding strategy that we are using to make everything clear. What is supported in latest version is shared parameter editor. This is kind of painful topic. If you try to manually edit the shape parameter files, you'll see what means hell. It's very not straightforward, not easy, and so on, and even not recommended to directly edit the shape parameter files. But imagine that we have a tool in which you can actually edit the shape parameter files. Let's just load one. All information there. It's definitely not easy to make a syntax mistakes because you have a drop downs and you can say yes, no. I have groups, I have type of the parameters, everything is clean, let's say like that. And what you can do, how easy is to add new parameters to parameter file. You just click add parameters, give them name, and you have them. You just click save, and that's it. They will be saved.
Nice.
And if I may add one more feature of this shared parameter editor, maybe more advanced users will kind of appreciate this one. I don't know even what are these. Let's open this one and let's load one more shared parameter file, like 3 parameters. It will ask me, do you want to merge, combine them into one, which is super useful feature. And we see parameter 1, 2, 3. And what I need to do to officially merge them, I just need to save them somewhere on my machine. And that's it, easy like that. And so far, this feature is also feedback from the community. Of course, we give our touch to final, design and workflow of the tool, but yeah, it's based on the user feedback. So yeah, and this is Paramanager. What I can also add briefly, whoever deals a lot with families, these users will appreciate Paramanager in the family environment. I will just briefly open one first family that I touch, DPM, Paramanager. You will see that it looks completely different because it's very specialized to family environment and all the features for family. What we are working now on for the existing users, the ones that actually provided us a lot of questions, when you will support the formulas or expressions in Paramanager, I will just say coming soon because team is starting to work on this feature. It's very important because in Revit, you can apply the formulas or expressions here. There is a specific syntax that you can apply to make your parameters kind of smarter, communicate with each other. And that's one of the big features that we will release in Paramanager, alongside ability to fill in the parameters into nested families. So for a non-Revit users in audience, hope everything is clear. But yeah, in a nutshell, you manage your parameters in a smart, flexible way, in a, if I may say, nice UI. And that's it.
Yeah. How many plugins did you say you have in total?
In total, we have 8 officially released 3 plugins. Of course, we are working on a ninth one. Ninth one will be oriented more towards the point cloud support. For a beginning, we'll do a simple list of simple features for just visualizing the point clouds, cutting the point clouds, exporting point cloud to family, remeshing things, and so nothing major. But then we will build up the feature list. We kind of decided to not go with a huge release, step at a time, and just add more features. That's our end goal.
I see you have feedback, donate, and custom software.
These two, if I may add, internally, this one is mostly used. Feedback, as I said, we daily receive a number of emails. Do this, please. Can you help to me something, blah, blah. These kind of things, of course, we have dedicated support team. That's very important for somebody who is developing free plugins on a large scale. Having a dedicated support team is kind of not very common. Honestly, I think it's very unique. So if you use our plugins, if you're stuck anywhere, feedback, ask the question, within 2-3 hours, you'll get the response.
Show me what happens when you click on feedback.
You will go to contacts form, and you just fill in a couple of information. I don't, required fields are these, and all of the fields are required for now. So, of course, we are receiving, for example, phone numbers that look like this company test.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We also believe in privacy. We don't need to know, for example, exact name of the person who contacted us. It's perfectly fine as long as the question is asked correctly, right? Custom software is a button more for, okay, this is 8 plugins. We are doing a lot of stuff for free. But maybe in my company, I have very specific workflows that I want to cover, very specific type of automation that I want to cover. Then you go and click custom software and contact us. And then we analyze with the client requirements, even our proposals from our experience. I think it would be a best approach. And donate is support us on our journey button.
Are any people donating using that button? You don't need to give me any numbers, but is there somebody once in a while donating anything?
Once in a while, yes, and pretty much the same companies, pretty much the same people. Last year, everybody probably thinks everybody donates us. Honestly, this button here we use mainly for when you donate something to DiRoots. It doesn't go to salaries, it doesn't go to some expenses and so on. It goes into buying SDKs and libraries for software development. For example, we recently switched to new type of installers. the more advanced and more bulletproof production-ready installers, and that is creating, give us ability to create installers. It costs around, I think, $2,000 per license. So donate goes into this. So we can create a better features, better installers, better everything. And that's the kind of thing that we finance donate button.
Interesting. Well, that's important to say, right? Because maybe people are not aware that this money are heading into that direction.
Yeah, because for example, we started one campaign, but we kind of didn't reach enough to provide one very big feature for one filter, and it's kind of try to replicate Power BI inside the Revit on a small scale, of course. I mean, Microsoft Power BI is a huge beast that you cannot beat, and you should not beat. It's very well-known application, very, good. But do something simple like that in a one filter. To do that, you need a very specific advanced UI controls. We can develop them internally, but it will take us a lot of time. We are confident we can develop, but sometimes it's much easier to purchase the finished controls and you build the logic to support these UI controls. By UI controls, I mean, how to explain, this button is a UI control, this whole thing here is a UI control and so on. So you can imagine some complex bar charts, pie charts, analysis, visualization things. Yeah, we hope we will reach good enough number to purchase these UI controls we can develop. And when you said DiRoots, I will just be clear about this. DiRoots doesn't live about donates. It doesn't live from donations. We are not that good in requiring donations, acquiring donations as, for example, Blender Foundation, which I'm a big fan, honestly. Blender is well known. Everybody knows Blender 3D as application, and they get donations from big players like Intel and so on. We receive from our users, and our market is very, very focused niche market. This is where we live. Custom software development. That's where we, I think, personally shine on these private things. Private development, I mean.
Okay, so then your team mostly, like the biggest part of the team is working in helping customers on their journey. And after that, you have maybe a small part of the team that is working only on these plugins, or everyone is involved at different levels.
Sometimes, Petru, sometimes like we have like 5 developers working on the plugin side, but sometimes we have just one that is maintaining all 8 plugins, like just going through, seeing bugs. Okay, let's accumulate a couple of bugs, develop, release. And that's our workflow. We are in that terms very flexible. And idea, to be clear, even for the new users that maybe will try up this to download our plugins, is, as Jose said, what is free will stay free. We don't have any single intention to ever commercialize our plugins. This is our giveaway to the industry, and I would like maybe just community to know that we are working very hard on these, an amount of hours that we are putting an effort to create these. But the most important part, we are passionate about this, and when you see the feedback from community, everything makes sense, everything is good, everything, you are just good to go to the next sprint and work on it. So.
Yeah, that's a very nice mindset to have. And I think in a way you also get rewarded by maybe you get some leads from this. Maybe you get some possible customers that are willing to, like after they try your free plugins, maybe they would like to hire you to build something, right? So it's a nice way to expand your customer base, maybe. I don't know if it's happening, but maybe at some point it will have this effect, I'm guessing.
Yes, it has that effect. People are reaching us from different backgrounds, they heard usually by recommendation. That's our thing. For example, we don't have business developers that are going chasing people around and so on to make it okay, but we have different strategy. Our strategy is let's make the best tools, and industry will come to us because they see what we actually can develop. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how to put this one, there is something, I call it necessary evil, called NDA. 80% of our developments, even these 8 plugins that you see, they are huge. 80% of our work is under NDAs. We cannot share anything that we are developing. What I can just say is we are developing very interesting, very unique tools for AutoCAD, Revit, and we are expanding into different platforms. So far, people know us just for the Revit side of things because we are ones to blame. We just publish the stuff for the Revit, but for AutoCAD, for example, for even we are looking into ArchiCAD. Very soon we will start working on ArchiCAD, which is kind of the other big platform that needs to be covered, from our standpoint. So we are not just, in a nutshell, we are not just Revit guys and girls.
Yeah, but mostly, at least for this, publicly, at least this is what people know most about, right?
Yeah.
How big have your team become since the last year? It has increased a lot?
Yes, since the last year, I think we almost doubled the team.
Wow.
If I can recall, now I stuck with the numbers, but now we are 17. 18 developers joining us in May, and we are looking for 2 to 3 new developers in June. So DiRoots is rapidly expanding, and there is always place in DiRoots for somebody who is passionate about software development in IT industry. We are looking into focused industry. We don't want to, spread around different things until we conquer the IT industry. When we conquer, at some point, let's hope we will expand into other different industries. So that's our philosophy.
What do you know about open source for AAC, and what is your opinion about that?
Open source, highly support, honestly. That's my long-standing point. Unfortunately, Autodesk, if I may a bit criticize Autodesk, doesn't kind of really support open source projects. What I know that, for example, IFC is one of the greatest things that's happened to our industry at this point. And it's technology and maybe standard, better to say standard, not a file format that is a future and should not be overlooked. If somebody at this stage in this year is doubting that, I think they are not right. That's my personal opinion. I saw a lot of different projects from software development perspective in our industry, and it's always nice to see people sharing the actual source code, whether it's commercial source code or non-commercial source code, because open source can be commercial and non-commercial. I can give examples of some Linux distributions and stuff that are commercial, very expensive ones, but they are open source, so they're not free. We received a lot of requests to open source our plugins recently because people are and we understand that point. They're afraid that we will start, tomorrow that will start charging the plugins. I adapted my whole pipeline towards their plugins. What will happen? For now, we just released 3 open letters. I think 3 at this stage open letters on LinkedIn that we are saying, no worries, as long as DiRoots is there, we are going to maintain, add new features, and so on, right? And that costs us money. Also, developers not, My opinion goes to, unfortunately, we are locked into file formats at this stage. That's my reading of our industry. And these file formats are kind of proprietary for commercial companies, and it's not easy to break the chains. You will see sometime, maybe in the near future, people start adopting the IFC and better ways to.
Yeah, there are some interesting projects, and I have some that I had guests on my podcast from. I have a very close relationship, for example, with Dion Molt, who is the founder and maintainer of Blender BIM. And Blender BIM is still in early stages and such, but I really believe it has a lot of potential, and it would be really nice to see some options, to have some options. I don't have any grudge against Autodesk. They had they are proprietary, but it's not only them. Like any other company does the same, right? Like Nemetschek or Trimble, they work in the same way. They are businesses. They are built to make money. They definitely had a tremendous positive impact on our industry towards digitization, of course. How they operate, yeah, of course. Are they expensive? Yeah. If you don't like it, don't use it. Try to invest in something else that might be an alternative, maybe, right? So I think actually what is one of the biggest problem why we don't have any alternatives is it's very little awareness in our industry about open source at all. That's the problem. Like look, for example, for IT, right? You can find open source free tools that you can build whatever project you wish. Like we still don't have that in AEC. Like, or if we have, it's partially, and yeah, we still have a lot of work to do there. But that won't happen overnight, and won't happen if we don't educate ourselves, and if we don't find a way or another to contribute. You know, even by just at least talking about it, being aware that, well, it might be a solution. Like there is this kind of business model. It can be a business model as well. There are many IT companies that they have they open source their code, right? Even if for some services you might need to pay, but this is the nice part with open source, right? Because you can customize it however you like for your use. It's not closed, and you can have a say in how you are going to use it, right? You are not stuck with what the company decides to do. That you pay the license, and after that you do whatever you want with it, right? Because it's open source. You have the right to modify it for your own use, right?
And if I may add, Petru, I agree on all points with you. First, everything starts with being aware that there is something else beyond the common technologies that we actually just see every day. You know, in our industry is kind of slow in adopting this digital transformation. I think everybody is aware of that. But they're gaining attraction. You know, things are improving. If I may said from my perspective, in IT industry in general. Half of things is open source. .NET, for example, .NET Core project is fully open source. It's a huge framework, huge platform that is, I can just go there, compile on my site and use it. Even I can modify it. Of course, if I check these licenses, allow me to do that. But yeah, as a DiRoots, what we are looking, we cannot, and what's our perspective on the open source from our development standpoint is plugins we cannot open source. Why? While developing these plugins, we invested almost 3.5 years developing these things, and we just scratched the surfaces, I like to say, for our developer team. And that's our IP, intellectual property. We learned a lot, we gain a lot of knowledge, we build things, so we become fast. But as a side effect, we do the giveaway. Okay, let's everybody use, code is ours, but we can apply that code on custom development projects, on some, I don't know, internal projects and so on. We have planned to release first DiRoots open source library in 3 months from now, roughly speaking. It's a DiRoots.math library that we are actively developing. Actually, we started recently to the development of the project. And it's a math library that will help everybody in our industry to kind of use common math functionalities that are very specific for our industry without being hard-coded to Revit just, or AutoCAD, or Navisworks, or so on, more generic thing. That's also be one of the giveaways for software developers, not for the casual users, but more for software developers. So.
Yeah, I did not try to point out DiRoots. This was not the intention of what I said. I just wanted to say generally that the people working in the projects, they should try to, like, if you want an alternative, look and see what is possible and try to support that. Don't expect for something to happen. Nobody will do that for free. Come on, let's be honest, right? So it's very nice that we have like projects like BlenderBIM, where Dion Molt and the very nice community is putting a huge effort to try to do something there. And there we have Speckle, there we have IFC.js, other very nice projects, and there are definitely more of them. Yeah, there is a huge list of them in on the OS Arch community forums. So, but from because you have the know-how and the background in this, and you work in this actually, like, what do you think BlenderBIM should do to succeed and become a real contender for this space, a real alternative for Revit, ArchiCAD, or AutoCAD? Having in mind that the passion is there, but there are no money, like very little funds. Everything coming in right now is just Dion and the other developers putting their time.
Yeah, they need more developers to be 100% on the point. They need more developers. They need more contribution, right, from the industry, not just from the individuals. Maybe companies like us, right? There is a lot of companies similar to DiRoots that are doing plugins for AutoCAD, Revit, and so on. To take a spare of our time and our know-how and try to apply to and contribute to Blender BIM projects. I admire, and I watched a lot of videos actually on your channel with Dylan, and the passion that he has for this project is kind of, he shines. You can literally feel the passion behind him. So the project, in my opinion, can he beat Revit in the sense of you can take a big piece of the market, let's say, and everybody moves to that. I believe, but first thing that he will need resources in terms of financial resources, support from the community, and more community contributions in terms of developers. And I think it is possible. It's just hard. It's very difficult, not just because of putting effort, because kind of if you take a look into the bigger picture, is as I said, we are locked into proprietary formats. It's very difficult to break these chains, like to get rid of all of these commercial big players and try to find that alternative and make it work with other commercial applications. And that's the key. That bridge is kind of, in my opinion, thing that is missing. Until everybody fully adopts the IFC and all applications really comply with IFC, that can be our bridge, in my opinion. And
I am aware about the lack of finance. Then tell me, how do you think can we get involved more companies? Like they are bitching around that Revit or Autodesk have too expensive licenses, but they don't contribute to a possible alternative at all. And they keep paying hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars yearly for license, right? And they don't throw away $2,000-3,000 to help a possible alternative. How do you think can we reach? What should we do? What can we do actually to raise more awareness and get more people involved in this? Because I'm aware, I know the problems and I know how they can be solved. Yeah, developers and time. That equals money, and you will get progress, right? But because this might be difficult, like this is very difficult. I try, like it's a mission of mine to raise some awareness about this, but I don't feel that I raised any awareness about this, to be honest. Since I talk about openBIM and Blender BIM, I did not feel that I make any impact at all. I still feel that the level of understanding is still the same. People, understand, it's cool. It's like, it's very optimistic, a very utopian topic, but nobody will try to contribute in any way, right? So what about maybe a kind of business model for Blender BIM that in a way it could finance itself and boom from this?
What I would do, honestly, it's not my project, so it's hard. But I'm thinking now is I would build a long-term roadmap for development and for the product itself. What are the targets? The targets need to be very clear, 100% clear to everybody.
There is one.
Yeah, the long-term roadmap. Okay, and after that, I would start market it properly, because as you said, I know for Blender BIM, and I'd like to support the project. My problem is time. My time is like very little, honestly, that I have spare time to contribute. But there are enthusiasts in our industry. We need to reach them by marketing properly the tool and knowing what are the exactly roadmaps, what are the timelines, what is the goal that we want to achieve in a milestone 1, 2, 3, and so on. That's something that I would target, honestly. But take a look at it as an example, the Blender as a platform. I forgot the name, Guido One Ross, right? No, sorry, there's a Python. I forgot the name of the initial developer and inventor of Blender. The Dutch guy, I think.
Tom Rosendahl, I think.
Tim Rosendahl, right? Yeah. Okay, how he created Blender? For straight 12 years, nobody used Blender. I mean, nobody. The very, very small percentage of the industry, actual 3D industry, used. And then Blender exploded in terms of popularity. And today we see that is kind of one of the main contenders. Like there is Maya, there is 3D Max, soft image, there is Houdini, all of these nice Cinema 4D, all of these nice applications. But there is one, actually, you cannot believe 100% free, 100% open source, fully maintained with a long-term roadmap of features. How he, maybe to examine his path and see how he makes his breakthrough, even with all of these financial losses that he has in the beginning.
It was much more interest. The niche was not so small, actually. It was geared more towards more general use. Like more programmers, hobby programmers could have been interested in that, you know. So the user base is much, much bigger because it's not only construction industry, right? I thought about that long and a lot about it, of course. But yeah, there are a little bit too many roadblocks in our industry, unfortunately. So I know if I would have some money, I would invest in this. But I don't know, like, let's say that you can convince an investor to put in some money. How you need to have a business model in place or something. And even if it's open source, you need to have a way to monetize it. And I don't know if Dion is willing to do that. Yeah.
Even Blender is monetizing in some different ways, not directly charging the product. There is a lot of different ways to monetize the actual development, right? Surrounding things like open movies for Blender. It's a product developed in the product that actually is free and open source. So.
Yeah, but you need to have users. That's the biggest problem because what is he's working right now is just to get to a beta version, which can be used in production, because now it's not recommended to be used in the production because there is no good user interface. That's the problem. It can be used by the geekiest people, right? So it's not appealant to the most of us, right? It's difficult to speed that roadmap. I think he hoped to release by this year that version beta. If I'm not mistaken, I can be mistaken about this. But I think it is going to be a bit easier when you can say that, yeah, you can use it. Like you can make a product, you can make a project from A to Z in Blender BIM. We are not there yet. It's possible, but it's very clunky. Like, and you need to know Blender first. So that's another thing, that the target is to have its own interface, that you need to just to learn Blender BIM and not Blender itself. Because right now, if you want to use Blender BIM, of course, you need to learn Blender, or you need to use Blender mostly, right?
Yeah.
But I cannot stop myself dreaming from the day when Blender BIM can become what Blender is today for the artistic industry, for film industry.
Honestly, me too. Honestly, me too, because I personally believe choice. Like, more choice I have, I can decide better. If I want to pay something, okay, it means that I have a reasons why I'm using the Revit or XYZ application, right? But to reach this level, Autodesk took like a 25 years, I think, of development and very, very extremely large amount of money to develop this. So to compete with this, yes, it is possible, but to give the correct answer, what is the exact roadmap to achieve this result is very difficult. If we know that, we will probably we will be on the right path, right? So it may be trial and error. And if you are passionate, I don't know, Dylan is passionate. So we are speaking about Dylan, and Dylan is not here. So he said, okay, but he will understand what I'm saying. If he's so passionate, he will hit the wall, he will stand up and go again. And he will learn the lessons, right? What to do this time to gain even more users, more contributors, more developers, and so on. One fun thing that I would do, honestly, when he released the beta version, I would recreate this sample model from Revit just to market it, because everybody knows this stupid model. I'm sorry for saying the word stupid, but it's a stupid model. Like, it doesn't show anything real, but it will be eye-catching. It will be shared over the LinkedIn. It will be shared over Twitter, all of these networks, and people will catch up. People will see, wow, is this even possible to do? It's not started as a one-man ambition to create and change the whole industry. Now it's kind of becoming something that you actually produce results. that's why I'm saying maybe a better version, he needs one model to show everybody.
Yeah, but actually Blender BIM is one of the most advanced tools out there for IFC authoring tools. You have all, it can edit natively IFC files.
And that is something to respect.
Yeah, exactly. So from this point of view, like, this is why it's so important for Blender BIM to succeed, because it has no agenda. It just has in mind the progress of the industry, the cooperation, the collaboration, how to implement this as quick as possible. Yeah, we went sideways for too long. I'm frustrated and passionate at the same time about Blender BIM, and I would like to see it succeed, and I would like to be able to contribute. But so far, I see that my efforts did not do anything, any positive.
You are underestimating, honestly. Sorry for saying that, but your channel has the influence, and you heard me. I watched, I learned, I know for Blender BIM. You are started raising awareness. Even, more people know. So you're doing a great job. It's just, it will take some time. So everybody can be aware.
I guess it takes time.
Plain and simple, like that.
Yeah. Where is the biggest base of your users? Are your plugins mostly used in Europe, in US, where?
USA and Europe are the common ones. Like, we know the number of downloads, where it's coming. If you go to website and download, we know it came from USA. We don't know exactly from where, but So USA is very strong. They use, honestly, my personal observation is they use the tools to speed up things, and that, like, they don't care about is it a paid free tool. They just need to speed up, and they have this pragmatic attitude, which I kind of admire, honestly. But we have users all around the world. If I can say one of the countries that we kind of don't have a lot of users is, for some reason, Japan. Why I'm saying Japan, it's completely opposite side of the planet, because we are mainly covering, we are seeing requests from New Zealand, Australia, Vietnam, India, I don't know, name the country, Russia, USA, France. For example, we have a lot of supporters in Holland. We have a lot of supporters there from Denmark also, and from the Nordic countries, definitely. Even one of the what I'm saying, this feature is actually sponsored by one Swedish company. Actually, they needed internally that tool, but they decided, come on, these guys are developing, let's pay them to create the tool. And we give them community kind of for free because they sponsored us.
So nice.
Yeah, I can even see one of the next possible sponsorships that we will have. Sponsorship, it doesn't pay all costs, believe me, like it's one fraction of the cost, but it's nice to see somebody support you and you create something for them, but you release publicly. You are available to release publicly. For example, here we have one US-based company and one specific, guy who actually really supports us, and he wants to create something like, let me just go here. Maybe existing users of Paramanager will kind of understand what I'm speaking, but the family stuff that is in the model level, if I go into families, the big problem is injecting parameters in nested families. And feature like that on the model level, we will just create on the families file. And it will be sponsored by US-based company. So we are open for all kinds of different models. We personally don't care. If you have a good idea, you don't want to pay full development, and it fits somehow in our plugins vision, why not? What stops us? Nothing. So we really enjoyed on this project. It's very, very specific, as I said, the contains tab. And actually, now I'm sorry because I didn't prepare the LinkedIn article from the sponsor that he posted on LinkedIn. I was very proud on the words that he used. Right? But yeah.
Congratulations for a good job.
Yeah, yeah, you need to trust me that you do the good job, but yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think we did. On this specific feature, we did, but yeah, our users will judge us.
Yeah, that's very good. Well, Marko, thank you very much. It was very nice to talk to you.
Thank
How
you.
can people reach out to you if they want to ask you something personally?
Personally, my LinkedIn page, Marko Koljancic or Koljancic, because you don't know to pronounce my name. Anybody in community, it's very difficult, but you'll find me on LinkedIn and the same name at DiRoots.com. If you go to the DiRoots team page, you'll find emails. So yeah, feel free to reach me so we can discuss.
Thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you, Petru.
And I wish you good luck with your developments further.
You too. Thank you. Thank you, Petru.